Okay, and we're up. All right, so everybody, thank you for coming. This is the December 2017 meeting of the Atlanta FileMaker Developers Group. This week, Todd Daniel will be presenting on project management solutions, and then what was the other part of it too?
Planning.
Project planning also. So let's start out. We'll go around the room and we'll do introductions. So my name is David Nadel from Blue Feather.
Erica Kent, Blue Feather.
Earl Cook, Laser Solutions.
Gail Cook, Laser Solutions.
Christy with Mac Advantage.
Dave Totten of the state of Georgia.
Tom Daniel.
Todd Daniel.
Jesse Barnum with 360 Works.
Warren Trick from 360 Works. I'm Junior from 360 Works.
Okay, great. And now I'll switch this over to Todd for the presentation.
Hello, everyone out there. Wow. I hope there's thousands.
Millions.
Go.
There you go.
There were thousands, they all left.
That happens every time.
So if you want to show your screen then too, you can hit the green screen share thing on here. Right there.
Oh, again.
And then you can share your screen. There you go. Now your screen's up.
Now you're in.
Wow. Is that supposed to happen?
Mm-hmm.
My name is Todd Daniel, and I've been coming to this group since 2011 and maybe 2010. And before, I was going to Lee Hong's group at Atlanta Macintosh User Group. He had his group going probably, well, way before I got there.
In 1991.
That was way, way before. I wasn't even born yet.
Have you presented before?
No, this is my first time presenting. I have been a lurker for years. So this is my 15 minutes of glory.
15 minutes? This is supposed to be 3 hours long.
I'm an in-house developer. My last two jobs, I made publishing solutions. I did circulation solution, and I did a advertising solution and an editorial management solution, and I always wanted to market them. And my whole database experience started out similar to Lee Hong's. It wasn't my main job. I'm an editor by profession, and I was at a publishing company 2 jobs ago, and I saw this box and said, what is this? And it turned out to be Omnis 3. Does anybody know what that is? It was an old database program that was with Macintosh. And we were a Mac office because in those days, to be in publishing, you had to be Mac. So I started piddling with it, and I created my first solution, which was for managing circulation routes. And it was really cool because without it, the drivers would come in and they would have like piles of paper with coffee stains and all wrinkled and everything. That would be their routes. So each time that we sent them out, we could print out a little list of their route and send them on their merry way. We didn't have all the fancy stuff like mobile apps or anything in the late 80s. But we did have fax machines. So I'm going to just take us on a little magical journey, and I wanted this to be an open discussion. And if there's anything that you guys can add that I left out of my list, let me know, and I will jot it down real quickly. And if there's anything that
I'd take notes from you if you want.
I am sharing. Okay. Thank you, Erica. I'll take her up on that. Yeah, if anybody has anything to add, because I want to make these lists comprehensive. So we're going to talk about.
You can hit the hide button on there. It'll get that little toolbar off the bottom too.
Well, I don't have a mouse.
It's okay. It's not really.
I don't know. I'm going to be obsessed with it the rest of the night.
If you hit escape, you might come back. It's probably just in presentation mode, so there's no cursor. Hit escape, it'll come back. You can get rid of it.
All right. We're going to talk about project planning and online support resources, and I'm just going to do what FileMaker recommends as best practices, and then I'm going to talk about the Todd way, which is pretty random. I learned basic programming on a Commodore 64 computer when I was probably in my early 20s, and I immediately became a dirty programmer. They taught you to flowchart, 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 and I thought that was just a little too much. And then I also learned to rip somebody else's subroutines and cut and paste. And old Basic 2 used numbers. I miss line numbers. Gosh.
So you could know where your go-to statement was going to go to.
It was so nice. Why did they get rid of numbers? So yeah, Basic 2.0 was a lot of fun. So that helped me a lot moving into databases. And I still have the same nasty, dirty habits of cutting, pasting, stealing, rating, cheating, copying, plagiarizing. So we'll talk about, but I never would do it from 360 Works. First thing I do when I start a project, and I learned that it's more productive to sit down and think of what resources are available as opposed to diving in or flowcharting or penciling it out. So I forced myself to spend about 3 hours just searching the web, because I'm a huge believer in not reinventing the wheel. And there's so much out there for FileMaker. So I call it an environmental scan. And I will start with some of these sources you guys should already know. The FileMaker website is massive and has tons and tons of goodies. And they're always sending me emails about new ebooks and new solutions. And I always get excited and stop everything I'm doing and go, I mean, the happiest days of my life are FileMaker updates. So FileMaker free. Everyone already knows about C code. We've already talked about it in this group before. That's an oldie but goodie FM starting point. So if you guys aren't familiar with these very famous sites, let me know. Now, of course, I will.
And your presentation is going to be available, right?
Yeah. I think I can still get in and post to the forum. So
This is also being recorded, so it's going to be recording.
And it's also being recorded,
Okay.
so I'll be glad to share all these links. And I intentionally typed out every link instead of just doing a hyperlink so that this could be also used as notes. FM starting point is good for planning out. If you want to cheat, you can just download like a basic core of somebody else's program. This one's free and it's legal, and you can download it, and then you can adapt it to things you might need. So it was very nice of them to make this available out in the public domain, FM starting point. This is version 5.09. So that's a good one. Client consultation, because we're supposed to talk about planning first, and then we're going to get into resources. I call the first stage the visioneering stage. And the idea there is, I don't know if you know this, but the engineers at Disney that work for Walt Disney, they're called Visioneers. I always thought that was cool.
I thought it was Imagineers or something like that.
Is it Imagineers?
I thought it was Visioneers.
What's with the Imagineers? Maybe that's a different company.
Is there a difference?
I think those two rumble in gang fights.
Visioneers and Imagineers.
But the Visioneers are more cool than the Imagineers.
They definitely didn't snap. So
But I thought to work for Walt Disney and be a Visioneer or an Imagier would be the coolest job in the world. So I stole that term. And what you would do is envision how you want it to be at the end. And I know this is very basic for a lot of the folks in this room. And then planning, development, stabilization, and then deployment. So we'll talk about a few things real quick. I'm not going to drag you through the agony and misery of every detail, but I did want to hit a few highlights of things that I thought were important. When I do a project, and I've done a few for nonprofits, and I've done some in-house, and I've done a few that never got off the ground or never went anywhere. But I mean, you talk to the client and you say, how do you want it to look? And how do you want it, how do you want your reports to look? That's a good question. What do you need on the end? And what I find is people are obsessed with Microsoft Excel to a very unhealthy level. And people think they can do everything with Excel. Business cards? Are you kidding?
My dad was one of those people. He'd do like presentations in Excel. You know, like you have PowerPoint, it's the icon next to it. It's like, no, I did it all Excel.
It's just amazing. The problem
over there.
immediately you can tell your client a big problem with Excel is it's hard to keep history. You can keep history if you're really good at it and have layered sheets and links and all that, but it's much easier to move anything that you have on a spreadsheet typically into a database. So it's a great selling point. So immediately you have your initial consultation and you get a vision of what they're wanting and what they want on the back end and what reports they want, and you sketch out the reports first and then sketch out the input. And so what all happens in the middle, they don't have to worry about. The client, we don't get them involved in that. That's where the magic happens. You know, magic happens on the honeymoon, but it happens in between to us as a solution provider to figure that out and make that seamless for the client. We've talked about balsamic here many times. I think the price has gone down. It didn't used to always be $89. It's a good deal. Does everyone know about balsamic?
I heard about it, but what is it?
It's where you can pencil out and lay out your screens to do prototypes to show a client or even to help figure it out yourself. And it's very quick and easy. And as you can see here on the right, you can even sketch out for your mobile apps, your smartphone and your tablet and your desktop. And you can present that to a client, and it takes no time at all to sketch it out. Because my background is in publishing, I use Adobe InDesign, mockups and prototypes. And what I can do is Adobe has a library, so I can just get the squares and the designs and the file fields and so forth, and I just drag it out of the library onto my layout. So but balsamic is, we had a whole meeting on that one night, and it was just really made me think of vinegar. Now, instead of talking about Todd's best practices, we will talk about what FileMaker recommends, and this is pretty general as well. And you can download some videos or go to FileMaker's website, and you can see this. But pain points is a buzzword that keeps coming up. And you ask your client, or you have to engage your client to find where the pain points are. And if you can list that, that's when they have that wow moment, because you're providing them a big solution quickly to their problem. And that's what our existence here is all about, solving problems. And you can initially start by telling your client, I'm going to do this one problem. And you would focus on a problem that is fairly easy with most benefits. And we call that low-hanging fruit. And you can do the wow factor and wow your client. Then you do a problem statement. And to do a problem statement, you have to have a goal, and you have to describe the problem. And then again, you don't want to overwhelm your client, but you can identify a few of the features that you think are going to help support this main goal. One of the cool programs that's also available out there, there's so many online resources, but Canvanizer.com, and again, I'll make these notes available. You can get it. I think there's even a free version, but it's great for flow charting. It's like a big whiteboard with yellow stickies, and you can do brainstorming with your client there, and you can kind of organize your ideas and define a strategy. So I think of Canvanizer is that place where you can go and rent an office for the day. And I've seen other places like that.
Rome.
Yeah, where the whole walls are just whiteboards. You should have done that here. And they can do yellow sticky. We're going to get more into the yellow sticky organizing system in a minute, because
Michael would be really into that. He loves stickies and arranging kind of structure with sticky notes. His office sounds like what he's got, like butcher paper all over his walls with stickies attached to it.
Oh, that's fun. I keep thinking of that story about Bannon, who used to be in the White House. He was an advisor, and he had this big situation whiteboard, and when people would go in there for interviews, the camera would catch what was going on in the background, all the secret workings of the White House. So you may want to keep it confidential. So let's talk about the discovery phase, and I'm going to keep this fast and painful, so I won't bore anybody. We'll get into the fun, meaty stuff shortly, so bear with me. You outline your goals. You need to figure out key things to put in your proposal. Training is always going to come up. You don't want to...
I have a question on training.
Yes.
We often have clients ask us about training, and they ask us how much it's going to cost, and we never commit to a cost for training. I was wondering, does anybody ever do like either an estimate or a fixed price for training, or do they do what we do is we basically just say it's totally open-ended. Here's our hourly rate. It just depends on how many days you want us there and how many questions people ask us and stuff.
I've done a fixed rate for documentation and video recordings, and then say, hey, you know, maybe 3 days of training, you know, with you know, 3 days of 3-4 hour sessions, you know, would be this much, and then beyond that's hourly. But I think it's a good idea to be able to have like a package sort of prepared. Say we'll give you, you know, 4 videos covering these different sections, and then come to the office and do training a couple times, and then beyond that you can do as much as you want.
Okay.
I would include, obviously they're going to assume you're going to provide some kind of training. You're not going to just give it to them and go bye. So you would have a certain block training built into your proposal, and then you would have training that's over and above. Because constantly, I mean, clients will drive you crazy, like, oh, so-and-so just quit, or so-and-so's sick, or so-and-so's not here today, and they're always going to get you for extra training.
I've even had cases where it's like, we gave you the video on this. If you just watch the video, it'll explain it all.
They say, what video?
They said, no, we don't want to do the video. Just you know, go on the phone, do screen sharing, or help this person out. Yeah.
So absolutely be sure you include extra training.
By training, what doesn't that, if you have the client as you're doing development and as you're doing testing and the like, doesn't having their involvement in the planning and screen layouts and functionality, doesn't it almost like you're training as you're going?
No, because you're talking about 2 different levels in the company a lot of times.
Okay.
You're talking about probably middle and upper management, or probably middle management for the initial design. And for training, it usually is going to be the end user, which could be a clerk or a clerical person. Man, something smells good in here.
Gotta get your business.
Resources for client. And one thing that I've seen before is like a style book, or just put something together in a little booklet for them, something tangible that they can have in their hand. just maybe a few of the basic features of the solution, just as a reference, just to get them to call you less.
Now here's another question on the whole training and resources thing. Like, do you wait until the system is kind of stable and mature and done-ish before you start putting this stuff together? Because it's very, very rare that we build something for somebody, give it to them, and they're like, okay, thank you.
Oh yeah, shake it down first.
Well, no,
Yeah.
I mean, it just never stops.
Right.
You know, our slogan is the system is done when the last user dies.
Yeah. That's a good one.
When the last-
Write that down.
Because you know, we have systems that are like 10 years old or older that people are still using all the time and want to say, oh, can you add this and do this? And it seems like if we tried to put together a manual for it, we'd spend so much time trying to keep that manual up to date that it would be an exercise in futility. But I guess it just depends, I guess, on how far into the life cycle of the project it is and how active the people are in terms of asking for changes to it.
One solution to that is to keep a living document and use Microsoft, it's OneBox now, and keep it on the cloud.
Mhm.
And there's another product called Omni Outliner
Yeah, we use that.
that I've used before.
Mhm.
And what you do is you constantly can update it and then date your revisions or whatever, but you keep it on the cloud for them.
Can't you also have a product wiki? You know, like
Or a wiki. That's a great idea. Yeah, product wiki.
Yeah, that's what I've had recommended to me a number of times, and I've done solutions with that, where you deploy it, and then rather than you maintaining it, you have the users who work in the system record their processes on the wiki. So, because you're not even going to know when their business processes change. There are things which exist outside of the software that you're working on. As they say, you know, bring it to room 400, you know, and then the person has their office changed and now they're in, 405. They can update that on the wiki really easily. You're not going to know about that as a developer. But if the people using the system keep that wiki up to date, it helps them keep their knowledge.
Good idea
going, yeah.
to have the wiki and train them and make them be vigilant about keeping it updated.
Mm-hmm.
I like this concept for organizing a proposal and just have two sections. This is like proposals for dummies. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what you're going to do. And if you don't do what you're going to do, don't come complaining when something's late or off schedule or whatever. So what you can do to make it easier for them is give them a checklist and keep it simple and neat. And this is what I need from you, I need your data from your last solution. I need your samples of all your documents, blah, blah, blah. And then talk about third-party integration. This usually is not going to be in the initial phase, but try to get a grasp of where they want to go with the solution, because a lot of times, certainly that would affect how you might be designing it.
Or naming fields or.
Yes, or your naming conventions and your nomenclatures, because a lot of times they're going to want to do mail blast. And so do you want to integrate with MailChimp, or you want to get a third-party plugin for FileMaker? And Salesforce. Has everyone worked with Salesforce? Has everyone been drugged through that hell?
I'm training myself to be a Salesforce administrator, so I'm planning that.
That's kind of our competitor here.
I know.
Group. They're kind of like the evil empire. So it is good to be familiar with Salesforce.
A very expensive evil empire too.
Yes. That's a good point to bring out to them.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have a question for the group. I only kind of have one client, and he's on FileMaker 12. And when he calls me to ask me questions, you're going, well, what version had this and what version had that? And it's really mentally painful to remember what was in every version. And so I'm envisioning keeping old versions of Macintosh operating systems using parallels, and I have Snow Leopard kept, and then keeping my licenses. Right now, legally, FileMaker, if you upgrade, you lose that license. So I don't think this is illegal right now, but if you do a BOGO and you find a buddy, I think you come out way ahead because you can split it, and you can't do an upgrade in a BOGO. And for everyone, if you don't know, buy one, get one free is a BOGO. And so you can split it and still keep your license, because I'm now wanting, and I wish I had have kept all my prior FileMaker versions in it, like an incubator and a test system.
Is it just a matter of downloading them, or do you just not have the license keys, or why would you not be able to install the old versions?
Well, legally, I lose that license, and I read the FileMaker legal section, and they do not allow you to keep your old version active when you upgrade.
Is that only under subscription? I think if you buy it straight out, you have a license key.
Um,
And on the Mac, you can run multiple versions on the same machine. You don't have to do parallels or partition. On PCs, I don't think you can run multiple versions, but on Macs, I've had 8, 9, 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just something new that I wanted to experiment with.
I know you can run multiple versions on Windows as well.
Yeah.
Can you?
I don't know about the licensing.
I'd be surprised if it was actually
Yeah.
illegal, and whether it was or not, it wouldn't stop me from doing it. I mean, that would, in my opinion, that's a ridiculous and harmful
Yeah, it's
limitation.
They don't
It's preventing you from being
Yeah.
able to do your work better for the client.
Right.
Yeah, your old versions. That shouldn't
I
mean
can
anything
understand
to them.
definitely that they wouldn't want you to, like, if you have 12 and you buy 13, you shouldn't be able to then go sell your 12 copy to
No.
somebody else. That
No.
I can totally
Maybe that's what they're
understand.
trying to prevent.
That, you know,
Yeah.
not transfer your old license, but if you want to install 12 and 13 and 14 and whatever on your computer, there's nothing that would. I wouldn't care what the license would say. That would just be silly.
If it'll run.
I was running multiple versions. When I installed 15, it wouldn't install. And I went back and did something that wiped out all of my previous versions, and it no longer allowed me to be running 15.
I was
And then
afraid
the
of
same
that.
thing happened with 16. And so what I've done in the past sometimes is I've kept old computers and just got everything on the operating system, everything that was running. And if I really wanted to go new, I've got another computer
That didn't happen to me. I've got a lot of old versions of FileMaker installed.
Yeah, well, I used to be able to do that. I would have 5 different versions on there. But the last time when it was 15 wouldn't install.
Okay.
And so they came in and just wiped everything in the back, all of my preferences and everything else. So, and the old ones don't work now.
Wow. Okay.
Well, this
I was
machine
wondering.
has 15 and 16.
Okay, and they're playing together, okay?
Yeah, well, I use them. You know, if I'm running a script and it's tied up one version, then I can use the other version to move on with something else while I'm waiting for it to finish running. It's very handy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Now, is it possible on a Mac to create a new user since their preferences are user specific, and then just install it under that other user so you can flip between user accounts?
On Mac? Oh, I don't know about. Sorry.
I don't know if that would make a difference in preference installation, because
It
the
could-
user
it could.
specific, you know, usually system preferences.
Or again, parallels, you can create all the windows you want up to infinity, all the virtual hard drives. Just briefly, I'll ramble over elements that need to be in your proposal. Of course, you want to define your scope. Are you going to license it? If you do, you want to provide a scope to that. You need a termination clause. God forbid that were to ever happen. But you need to have some kind of protection or something worked out about your intellectual property and what you've invested into the solution. Support. Do you want to get calls at 3 a.m.? Some people enjoy that. I don't.
But by the way, and this is probably already common knowledge, but it's a common thing that comes up with clients while we're talking about licenses and stuff. If you are not a full-time employee of the person that you are building the solution for, and in the absence of any contractual agreement between you, the copyright is whoever creates the software. So if somebody pays you to write something for them, but you're not a full-time employee of theirs, and there's no contract between you guys, then you are the legal owner of that software
Without the contract.
without the contract. And so if they were to decide to sell it or distribute it or whatever, they would legally need to get your permission to do that. In fact, it's not even necessarily obvious that they even have the rights to use it themselves, unless, you know, even though they paid you for it. They don't automatically have rights themselves to use it, which is part of the reason that we always want to have a developer agreement with our clients. Sometimes clients are like, no, we don't want any, we don't want you to have rights to the software, so we don't want to do a developer agreement. We're like, no, you don't understand. If you don't do this, then you have no rights to the software, and we do. It's
good to know.
Yeah, keep that in mind in case a client ever tries to, like, we've had clients try to strong arm us before and say things like, well, you can't use that stuff that you wrote for us for some other project because we paid you for it. And, you know, it's like, well, this is what our developer agreement says. And, you know, and it's a good thing that we granted you the rights to use it at all, because by default, we can do anything that we want with it. So that's just good to know that the default statement is that it's your property.
It's good to know.
Except in China.
Development fees. I know the official way of the Atlanta FileMaker Developers Group is to do it in blocks, time blocks. I know that's what a lot of you guys do. So certainly get that in writing. We already talked about training, talked about payment terms. That needs to be in writing and needs to be in agreement. And then we already talked about when you initially develop, it's best to just go with a basic stock package and then add on all your extras. Think of it as like a car, a stock car. And then if you want a spoiler on it, that's going to be extra. And then a timeline. And certainly they need to be vigilant on meeting their deadlines of what they're supposed to provide you. And you have to be vigilant on the other end. And then again, they really like the pain point summary. That's because that's making them feel like you're taking a burden off them. Let's talk about project management. And because you guys are so cool, I'll actually peek at one of these. And probably the most popular of all, the mother of project management, is Basecamp. How many of you in this room use Basecamp?
I have, but not currently.
I like it because it's cute little cartoonsy, but I don't use it. I used it a while back, and it's just real colorful, animated. 5 p.m. is another one. Smartsheet. I'm telling you, these people just can't get away from their Excel spreadsheets. So this one, Smartsheet, is this clever company that came out with Smartsheets, Excel spreadsheets on double steroids. It's like a Russian athlete. It's amazing because it's a spreadsheet, but then on the columns to the left, they'll add in and you can assign different things to different people and some color coding. And I'm not sure if it will run under Microsoft Excel, but it steals that whole metaphor of the old Microsoft spreadsheet. And I'm going to treat you guys. Now, another one that was recommended on the FileMaker forums is a product called Asana. And the name comes up a lot. I have not really researched it.
We're just starting to use that.
Really?
Like a week ago.
Really?
So I haven't even used it yet. Have you guys used it?
Yeah, I use it pretty regularly.
Is it okay?
To-do list.
Okay.
Just for to-do? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe in a future meeting, you guys can just maybe give us a quick little look at it.
We got Slack integration with it today, I think.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to show you priority matrix. And this is interesting. I don't know if you guys read the book Getting Things Done.
Yeah.
It steals that metaphor. And then it also steals, it was rumored that Dwight D. Eisenhower used this method, I guess, when he was president and invading Europe and doing personal things, who gosh knows. But the fantastic, beautiful thing about Priority Matrix, it's a subscription-based service. You have to download a small component of it onto your hard drive. But you can do your different projects that you're working on and just run them down the side. And then you can do a master view here, and you can immediately see what needs to be done for the day on different projects. And then you can collaborate with other team members, and you can have things that come in your inbox. So I used this to do a big conference last year, and it was so good. You don't necessarily have to follow the Eisenhower, or there's the get things done. There's different ways to use these 4 boxes. And what I found is I just use them as, like he said, to-do list. And the idea is this is pretty much a basic one. The one in the top would be a priority thing you need to do urgently. The one on the right can wait. One down there you usually delegate. And what I usually use for this one, postpone, is just kind of an idea bank of things that I may never get to, but or sound cool. And so I just kind of call that my idea hopper in that 4th corner. So what you can do as you're moving along with your project is you have different things here. You can keep notes on an item. And yeah, if I add an item here like meet with client, then suddenly you'll see all to the right there, it all comes to life. And you can attach documents, you can keep notes of phone conversations, you can keep up with the progress and when it's due, and everybody in your team would be an owner. Like somebody else could create a to-do item there, and you can see that Jane and Johnny are doing this and that, and they're so much done. But what I really liked was this progress meter, because every morning I would sit down and say, well, here's where I'm at with this item, and here's where I'm at with this, and I would need to make a phone call, and this becomes due. And it just really gave me a bird's eye view. I don't know about you guys, but I always like to see everything from 20,000 feet up.
Is there an
Which is another project management platform, actually.
Yes.
Is there an Android or iOS app for this, so you can be able to see it either from an iPad or?
Yeah, it's super mobile friendly.
Okay.
I don't know about Android, but it works great on the iPad and the iPhone.
My personal experience with every to-do system I've ever used is that I build up a few hundred or a few thousand items. I get to the point where I realize I'll never get them done, and I start a new to-do system.
On your to-do list, you can start a new to-do system. There are so many out there. I spend a lot of time reviewing and going through them. I mean, there's just zillions of to-do systems, but I really like this. Some call it the Eisenhower system.
What's your effort button between your progress and due?
How much time will it take? How hard is it? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can keep up with your time use. So if it's a project and you're billed, or you've already contracted for so many hours or so much work, and you see you're way behind, something's way off as far as time, you can make adjustments.
I think that effort thing is probably not so much how much time has been spent on it, as more like, do you project that this will be a quick thing or a slow, long thing? And if you want to knock out some quick things, then you find some things with a low effort.
That's true.
And doing reminders, can that also do like notifications like on the phone or something like that?
Yes, it does all that. It will send out notifications. In fact, it sends me an email every day. Like, how beautiful is that? Because that's the only thing people pay attention to is email. And it provides a summary of where my projects are and their deadlines. It's just beyond beautiful. And if you're a visual person like me, you can assign things different colors or different icons, and you can create your own little system that only you will understand. But you can see everything that I'm doing on that right panel is showing up here on my to-do.
This is Project Matrix Team. Can you assign tasks to other people?
Yes. Yeah, you can do all that.
Okay.
You can work collaboratively.
Okay.
And then in a minute, since you guys are such a good audience, I'm going to show you my other favorite one, but we'll get to it a little further down the road. So that's Priority Matrix. Now, DePulse is another one that I liked because it's so darn colorful. And they just came out with a big announcement. They're changing their name today to Monday.com. So you will see more about them. It's another real simple project management system. And of course, being a purist, and I don't want to be sacrilegious and I don't want to be blasphemous. So I should be doing everything in FileMaker. And I will say that the starter solution pack is really wonderful. And so many of these programs, you can just get them. And it's great seeing you guys.
Take
care. And you can modify them. So if it's a simple solution you need, just go ahead and get the starter solution and modify it to meet your needs. You guys, Earl, and what's their name again? I'm sorry.
Gail.
I'm sorry, Gail. Shame on me. Earl and Gail have missed a wonderful treat here, and that is Trello. This is the other thing I learned. I don't know if you guys get magazines. It's not even published anymore. Macworld magazine. And
I used to get Macworld.
PC Magazine did it too, but on the very back, they would profile an individual and it would talk about how they organize their life. And I read about this Trello thing and said, what is Trello? Has anyone heard of Trello?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't say enough about how wonderful it is. But again, it uses the metaphor of a giant whiteboard with sticky notes. But there's something magic about this. You can turn the sticky notes over and it has tons of information. So you can organize anything, whether it be your projects or your office or your workflow. And the way it's designed is that you can approach a problem in 1,000 different ways. Do you guys want to see it, or does it look like we're all geeked out on it already?
Bring it on.
Let's see if I can pull it up.
I used it to make a training program for a restaurant I worked at.
Really?
For every day, you would have these ideas, these kind of like skill sets that you had to make sure you could succeed with, and you could drag them into every day had a different set, and you could drag them onto a finish pile. If you missed some one day and it didn't matter, you might have come to other things, you move them around. Really cool, very interactive. Yeah, Trello. I was impressed. Trello, yeah.
I think I had provided a link in my PowerPoint or Keynote. Yeah, I think this is a secret link here. Or I think it's hidden. I had a link of samples. It might be hidden behind that little box that we can't get rid of.
If you just hit escape, you can hit the hide button on it. Just hit hide on there, and then it'll be gone. It's gone.
Cannot find Trello samples, sample boards.
It doesn't show on the stream, but we can see it here.
The Trello community has created boards, and then they donate them or upload them. And to share.
Nice.
And you can already immediately find half the time what you need here.
I like that infinite pizza one.
Yeah.
You put in your own backgrounds, but the one that I find most useful is somewhere down here, this one for projects. Holiday gift shopping, see?
Look at that.
All the important things in life.
That's right.
I'm looking for the one I wanted to share with you guys. Financial planning. What all those IT people throw that word around constantly to impress each other. This is a good one here, a product roadmap. And I just think this tool is brilliant, and it's so colorful. Again, you can set deadlines, and every one of these little yellow stickies, you click on them, and then there's so much you can do on the back. You can do a checklist, you can attach documents, you can color code it, you can put deadlines, and it is just fantastic. So if you're not using Trello, the best thing about Trello is the price is right. There's a free version. And I've never even had a need to get the more expensive paid version.
You had FileMaker dash Trello, is that?
Yeah, I some kind of integration or not?
No, I put a secret hidden link in there somewhere to get to some more Trello samples.
And it's so hidden that you can't find it.
There it is, visit sample. I'm not crazy. Okay, but we already did that. But this is a one I had just shown you that I think is one of the better ones, where when you're getting into your testing phase and different modules, you can move all these back and forth, each one of those yellow stickies. And so if you're running behind schedule with one module, you can put it in a different column and play around code review. So I just love it. Okay, how do you manage your clients? This is I use a product called Devon Think Pro. It is designed for the research academians, researchers, scientists, authors, and I find it very handy for organizing projects. And once I was asked, well, how does this compare just to having a folder in Microsoft or Apple and just using the Finder? And there's so much power in this one little thing here. I can't get my arrow to work. But you see the yellow T there, the sticky note. What I do is I create a folder for every project, and I put a little note document in there. And then I will also collect everything from a client or for a project, and I will scan it. And I went to an all paperless office in 2010, so everything is digital, and I keep in different folders and keep it organized. So I'm going to see if I can open. It was misbehaving earlier today, but maybe now that I've rebooted, it'll be happy. When you get that message, it's not going to be a good day. So I can't show it to you now, but I like the most expensive version. There is a personal version that's much cheaper, but the most expensive one allows scanning and OCR. And I keep anything that might be related. You can get clips off of website. For a project, anything related to a project, you should scan and organize it in here. This thing at the right is really for researchers and academians, and what it'll do is it'll see how many times a phrase or a related word was used, like architecture there, and it'll recommend that all these items have something in common and need to be moved in a folder together. And it's real good if you're writing a massive book to help keep you organized. I only used that feature maybe a couple times. So love Devon Think. It's European. I think it's British. Okay, now we're going to talk about the second half of our talk tonight, and that's resources. So there is so many goodies in when you become a FileMaker Solutions developer. It's like entering a monastery or a convent, and you make a sacred oath that you're going to eat, drink, and sleep FileMaker. And the reason being is you would be surprised. You get this information and you think, I'm never going to need that, and it'll come in handy for your next project. So I always encourage people to constantly learn and constantly have that learning mindset, because it's so cool when you run across a problem and you say, hey, I just learned about this. I can solve this much easier with this thing I just learned. And instead of spending hours and hours trying to invent something you didn't know about. So we're going to talk about resources. Again, I call these the core resources, and most of this you can find on the FileMaker website. If you don't have anything to do and you're bored and you've already watched Game of Thrones 100 times, just spend time browsing the FileMaker website. It's really good, well done. You can get free webinars. I just saw where a lot of the notes from the last DevCon, you can get in an ebook, various sessions in ebook format. Certification, I just started working on my FileMaker 16 certification. I got some other certifications on some other things. I'm a big believer in certification because, again, it forces you to go into areas that you may think you already know, but you may not know, and it helps you have an open mind. Everyone here should be certified. I hear it's very controversial. I hear developers, even in this group, say, oh, I don't need it, that's not important. But I think it's just a good act of self-discipline. Does it have good marketing value? Do your clients go wowie when they see that you're certified? Some yes, some no. But I think you need to do it for you. Go to meetups. Go to your local FileMaker developer group. There have been some meetups that have come and gone. Christy and I went to an interesting one.
Was it specifically about FileMaker?
Yeah. It was.
What made it interesting?
Well, I think she believed that she was a FileMaker expert, and I was tactfully trying to explain to her the things that she was presenting to us were all wrong throughout the entire presentation, but tactfully to just nudge her into a way that, is that how you would describe it? A polite nudging?
You did well. She didn't throw down her.
I was very filtered that day.
Pointer. I know Marty at Gearbox tried to start one, and I think I was the only one that joined. But I think about it a lot, trying to give it another go. Just one geared more toward the beginner level. I think it would be fun. There's plenty of FileMaker community discussion boards out there. We're going to talk about some in a few minutes, and then of course be on all the mailing list and get the product announcements, because it's really cool when people roll out new plugins and new third-party solutions like 360 Works.
Today we got them all done. We did. We just
that's great news.
Finished updating all of our stuff.
Yay. A lot of people don't know about Reddit, but Reddit calls themselves, what, the front page of the internet? Mm-hmm. And you can have discussions about anything there. In fact, you can discuss things that you probably shouldn't be discussing.
Sounds like Reddit.
Yes.
But also FileMaker.
But if you want to just get into a dirty political discussion, there's all kinds of forums for that. But there's also a really good, helpful FileMaker group on Reddit. And Reddit does have an app. And then, of course, Matt Petrosky, I think he's also known simply by the nickname of God. You you can, he has just tremendous resources on ISO FileMaker magazine and his website.
I subscribe.
Yeah.
Like it.
Oh, you got a subscription?
I do. I like it. Even though I think sometimes he talks over my head, it's in a video form, so I can go back and listen to it over and over until I get whatever it was that he was, that I didn't get the first
It's not
time.
going to be over your head soon.
Yeah, right.
He's a nice guy,
Podcast.
too.
Is he?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, he's
Where is
very
it?
clear.
He's a very nice guy. Petrowski.
He's very clear, and I think he's a good teacher. He's pleasant to listen to, and
He always starts with, well, hello there.
hello, FileMaker
Well, hello
enthusiast.
It gets you so pumped up.
That's right.
And the other god is Matt Navarre. You can do FileMaker Talk. I subscribe to these podcasts. They're great when you're cleaning house, if you clean your house. They're great for working in your yard. If you work in your yard, they're great for going to the gym. They're great to listen to in your car. They're great to listen while you sleep. It burns into your subconsciousness. I just made that up for you. YouTube, there's a bunch of ones. You can watch them when you're eating, if you like to eat alone. And I just set up my little iPad in front of when I eat, and watch the FM tutorials, and FileMaker Academy is real good. There's some folks in England that put out great content. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Guy Stevens has a cute accent. So
Yeah,
nice
maybe
to
that's
listen to,
him.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's the UK or European subsidiary of Apple FileMaker, and they create some great videos. And yes, there's even a FileMaker Facebook page, and you can go to it. And it's usually people asking questions of obscure, weird things, but I also catch a lot of good announcements there, and there's a lot of good information. Some of the more popular websites, and again, I will make this available to everyone. DatabasePros.com. Everyone here should know all about Anchor Buoy because we've talked about it in this group many times. And they have a good tutorial and some diagrams on Anchor Buoy. Brian Dunning, he used to be an editor or something, but his website's got lots of goodies.
Custom function.
Yeah, it's really fun. You'll never want to sleep. That's his website. Uh-oh. I'm losing hundreds of people every second. Again, FM forums. Now, I know that everyone here knows their ASCIIs and their Unicode numbers for Japan and Taibishan numbers. But if you should forget one by some chance, go to this website. And then JSON. JSON is kind of like an abbreviated version of JavaScript, and it kind of follows the conventions of C language. And it's a great language. It's to the point. And if you make a script and can't figure out why it doesn't work, you can go to the JSON validation tool and run it and see what errors are showing up. And then for all you guys that are needing information on base 64, there's a good reference source here. Plugins,
All right.
I had to move that one to the top. And I hope you don't hate those other competitors.
No,
okay.
Good stuff.
There's good stuff to be found on these websites and great plugins.
I'd say Base Elements is another one that I definitely recommend.
Yes, sir.
Base Elements plugin is very easy.
I heard it.
We had a presentation on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I've heard of them.
it's excellent.
I've been using Monkey Bread plugin a little bit recently.
It's a good one.
Another good one.
Pretty much everything in it.
Yeah.
It's also massive though. The single plugin I think is like 50 megs.
It's got a very weird syntax for calling it.
It is a little unusual.
So how often is it a problem with plugins when new versions and new operating systems come out? Is that a big issue?
It can be. It can be. We've had a lot of problems with the High Sierra update. That's a big part of what we just released today.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, it's the High Sierra stuff.
I know we had a client who had a solution that they sold. They were an SBA member, and they sold the solution to those people, and it depended upon one particular plugin to do all sorts of curl stuff. This was before 16. And that plugin broke with FileMaker 15, I think. And the company that made it was not planning on updating. They're just like, no, we're not going to do that. They had some newer version of something. And they're like, you can upgrade to that, but it was going to cost them like tens of thousands of dollars to do the upgrade. So to keep their solution running on FileMaker 14 and newer operating systems, everything like that, they're going to have to pay this huge licensing fee. So to get them out of that, we switched them over to a different plugin that was a free one and worked and was being maintained.
Yeah.
But it delayed the rollout of the new versions of their product for quite a while because we had to move all of this stuff over internally from using one plugin to using another plugin.
Our office was on FileMaker 11 forever. That came out in 2012. I was wondering, in this group, who has the client with the oldest version? I think you should get a prize tonight.
The oldest version of FileMaker?
Yeah.
Denise, the girl in Smyrna, I think they were on version, it was before 10. I want to say like, I don't know, 8 or something.
We do a fair amount of conversion still from 6.
Yeah.
From 6?
Really? Wow.
We do like one a year.
Wow.
It's very rare, yeah. Most people
one a
seem to be
year,
11
we'll
up.
get somebody's like, I'm on FileMaker 5 or 6. And
Yeah.
get on the latest version.
Wow.
I had one, this is probably at least 4 years ago. They were on version 2. And they sent it to us on a zip drive.
On a zip disk?
On a zip disk.
Yeah.
And I still had a blue and white G3.
Really?
That had a built-in zip drive that I hadn't turned on in like 10 years. Still powered up.
Cloud of dust.
I got the thing out of there and I ran it through Metadata Magic and pulled it into 15 and emailed it back to him. And I'm like,
Oh
here
my
you go.
gosh.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a taxi driver in Vegas that we rode in a taxi? Weren't you in that taxi? The taxi driver who serendipitously had used FileMaker in the past and talked to us about like FileMaker 5 to, you know,
I don't
the
remember
latest
that.
version.
That must have been a ride I wasn't on.
Oh, maybe so. I think Michael wasn't there. Yeah, that was interesting.
Well, Uber drivers are on version 7.
Well, but they've got solutions that they like, and there's.
I knew I had base elements here,
There
so
you
I'm
go.
covered.
Well, so no, there's the base elements product, which is what you're talking about here for analyzing the DDR. And then they also, and that's a paid product, it's very good. They separately though, they have a free plugin, which has all sorts of useful features that are part of it.
Oh,
It
okay.
seems to be the incubator lab for FileMaker because like FileMaker 16, like a whole lot of stuff that the base elements plugin did is now like being folded into FileMaker 16.
I mean, it seems like a good way to do it. Look, people are making
Yeah.
plugins to fill holes in your product, figure
Yeah.
out what's most useful, and then build it in.
Yeah.
Right.
It just seems like a whole lot of the 16 stuff came from what was in the base elements plugin. I don't know if that's like a compliment to base elements, and like you guys were right on with what people needed, or if it's kind of a knock on FileMaker of like, how come you just went to the base elements plugin and incorporated everything? But yeah, it seemed like they.
The way they handle curl is pretty similar.
And JSON parsing.
Inspector Pro and FM Perception. FM Perception's good to keep up with your global variables. And it prints out really nice, clean reports.
We were looking at FM Perception recently.
Oh, really?
And I was surprised at how much it cost. It's not a cheap product. I think it's like going to be like $500 for like one copy of it. So it was more than I was expecting.
Wow. Yeah, they kind of hide the price. But this is wonderful. I think this is where it's at, is connecting with QuickBooks Online. Barcode creator, that's a whole area there of potential. So they have some good stuff.
I've used GoSign before.
Oh, okay.
That was a good one. We had people who had touchscreen laptops, and they wanted to sign things on the computer. They were like the ones that you fold back, you know, like the convertibles, I guess. And so GoSign was a good solution to that.
Is that you can't do that with just a regular container field?
It's FileMaker 13.
Oh, so you can now.
I haven't tried it. I don't have a touchscreen laptop now to try that on.
But I imagine, I mean, you can sign in with a mouse in a container field now. Or am I just,
I think it only works with Go.
Is it only with Go?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
it's kind of funny that like Go, like, I don't know, it's kind of funny thinking that there's a subset of features in FileMaker Pro that there is in FileMaker Go, and that we need like some solution to do the things that we can do on the mobile device, on a desktop device. It's kind of backwards.
I think there are a number of things like that, right? All the Bluetooth iBeacons and location stuff.
That's a little different though, because that's fundamentally a mobile thing.
I guess there aren't a ton of touchscreen. Well, I guess now there are a lot more touchscreen laptops than there used to be.
Did I get anywhere close to 8:30? No, I didn't.
But this is great.
This is really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I tried to get up some speakers for tonight, Skeleton Key and DB Services, and they both declined, probably because of the holidays, but maybe they didn't want to be sharing to a bunch of other developers to make other developers smarter.
No.
But I'll keep trying them for a future meeting.
Well, this is a great presentation. Thank you. We're going to talk about what we want for next time. Let's see here. When would that be? So the next one would be January 6th. So,
January, go ahead, January 3rd.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong month here. Yeah,
I will not be able to come to that.
We don't have time.
I think it's spoken twice.
But we won't ask you to present.
what is the date again? The third?
January 3rd. Yeah.
No, I have a party home, but I don't have.
I think there's going to be a lot of people.
Yeah, that's right after New Year's.
Bahamas?
Well, either way,
The kids are still off of school. And they've got
Fun.
family visiting, so
it is very close to New Year's.
I feel like we should. I don't know. I guess it's up to everyone else.
Who would be here for January 3rd? I'd be here.
Barely.
Probably.
Get back a second. How are you barely here? Have to be somewhere else?
It'll be a little bit.
Where's
So you guys get back.
Yeah.
Certain portions of
What, you're doing this on?
everything from the knees down.
Paper. Paper works.
Okay.
So what about you people down at that end of the table? Who would be here January 3rd?
Depends on if there's dancing girls or some of that.
Wow.
Well, we've had them at all the other meetings.
Oh.
So
Maybe that's inappropriate to say it in this
No.
climate.
well, see, we're not. The cameras are turned off right now, so they can't see
Oh.
what's happening over here. Yeah.
What if Junior were to dance? Would that?
Be different. It'd be a little different.
I would bring dollar bills. I would bring dollar bills.
Just put all my ones in for the pizza.
So, well, a topic. What a topic for next time? January or February. If you want to do that then. Anyone have some suggestions on things? Who hasn't presented before here? Did you present?
Run.
A long time ago, yeah.
How long ago were we looking at?
I don't know, 2014 maybe.
Then I think we're rotating
It's
back.
his turn. It's his turn.
We're recycling.
Until I get certified. I haven't finished Tetris yet. FileMaker Tetris.
That's what it's been. It's been like, oh, we'll do the Tetris thing next time.
Once it's done.
Next
When it's
time
done,
we'll be done.
it's
We'll
done,
show it
right,
there,
yeah.
and I'll do it next month.
Exactly.
Yeah. What are some topics that everyone is interested in learning more about? Some interesting projects that you guys are working on that you want to expand on?
It is always fun to see someone's project.
Yeah, I thought Earl's was great.
Yeah, I was about to say that. That's one thing Earl's.
It's fun.
I'm working on some new stuff, but it's not FileMaker. It's all like Java, AWS stuff. So I don't know.
I'm using Hibernate, a persistence library, and FileMaker JVC to run a web app.
That sounds cool.
No, it's not.
There's something that I want to do, and I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to look at this, but I want to set up a caching server for using the FileMaker database to cache between that and a web application to speed up that processing a little bit. But I haven't set that up yet, so I don't know when I'm going to get to look at that. That would be a fun thing. Once that might be a meeting after that. We'll see. Any vendors anyone wants to hear from? Products?
Was anything a hit at DevCon?
I've spoken to 2 people from DevCon who said that they would be willing to speak, but they haven't picked a particular month that I can push them some more.
We'll see if you can get someone for February.
Okay.
Did we demo 360 deploy? I can't remember if I did that.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Anything new on that?
Not yet.
Okay.
But there will be some new stuff coming, but I don't know when.
February 7th.
What is it, Jesse? Deploy?
360 deploy. It's for kind of automating the process of updating to a new version of your solution, rather than having to like import into a clone and stuff. Most of the stuff that we're working on is fairly kind of like incremental, like lots of under the hood stuff, but not stuff that
People would see.
Yeah, and, right. It's all kind of reliability improvements, not like exciting stuff that you're like, oh, here's show.
We found a crash and then we fixed it.
Yeah.
Well, send your ideas to David by email.
No one leaves until we have an idea.
Yeah, that never works.
Anybody you want to hear from? Any topic you want to?
I can always float my feelers out in our.
That'd be good.
I'm in the office, yeah, see if I can get someone. Joe Martin was thinking about doing something for a while. I don't know if he'd be willing to present to one of these events, but I'll ask him.
You know what?
Are you talking about his virtual reality mirror sync thing?
No.
But you heard about that, Jesse?
No.
Oh, there's Joe Martin is developing a virtual reality mirror sync where you act as mirror sync and you have to reconcile the records that come from this. And you wear the VR headset and they come at you and you have to catch them in
A conflict.
It sounds very exciting. I feel bad if you miss something.
We'd be open
Gets
to a
corrupted, that's
FileMaker
it.
comedy routine. If anybody has some very tasteful FileMaker.
Do you know Jerry Robin?
No.
Do you know Jerry Robin?
that great light.
Oh man, he's awesome. He's a stand-up comedian who's also a really good FileMaker developer. He's in Phoenix.
Look at you.
His company is Transmogrify, and he's a funny guy. Why don't I've been meaning to mess around with some of the kind of the artificial intelligence stuff in Amazon.
She knows I've been talking about that too.
Like neural network stuff and like decision analysis and stuff. I don't have a particular thing right now, but I could, especially if we're going to skip not for January.
No.
Yeah, I think
But
it
if
looks like
maybe
there's
for
not gonna be a lot of people.
February, I might be able to find some stuff and send together that can show that off.
That would be very cool. I like it. Like, that's why Erica gave me the look. It's because I'm very interested in that as well. So I think there's a lot of potential there. And
okay.
I see a team coming together.
Yes.
Well, it guarantees that neither of you will have to spend as much time as one of you would on the same topic.
The other thing that I want to do is do voice integration with like you know, the little assistant things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna after the meeting I'll show you the app I've been working on.
Oh, okay.
Do you play D&D at all?
No, I haven't played that.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it's a Dungeons and Dragons app.
With a voice command thing?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Let me see if she can hear me. Hold on a second. Alexa, describe a zombie. No. Alexa, ask the GM to describe a zombie.
To use GM skill, a parent needs to give permission. To do that, I sent some information to the home screen of your Alexa app.
Oh, I just certified the app for people 13 and younger, so I need parental permission. I'll show you next time. Yeah, it's actually quite cool. You upload code to Amazon through Lambda, either Node.js, C#, Python, or Java, and then it's very, very easy to integrate it with you know, the Echo, and you basically write a whole bunch of sample sentences and you put placeholders where you would want like a dynamic term to go, and then it calls your code on Lambda. You don't have to run it on a server anywhere because it's all serverless through Lambda. And then like all of my database is all on Amazon through their DynamoDB service, and it just looks it up, gets the particular request the user asked, and then gives them the answer on that.
Very cool.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I think that could be like really useful for some businesses to, you know, taking orders in or something like that in a busy warehouse. People have their hands full of something, you know, they just be like, you talk to your thing and say, hey, I'm shipping order number, and then you read the order number off, and then it confirms it, and they don't have to put their stuff down to, you know, scan things or, you know, type on a computer and things. They can just keep working and shout commands to record things in a database. So, or we just say, hey, checking out whatever. That's what we do.
It's the future.
Cool.
Yeah, it's fun. That's been my personal project for like last week or two. Is getting that working. And actually, the Amazon Echo speech part of it hasn't been most of the time consuming. It's all been like actually building the database with all the information. That's been the part.
Cool. All right. Well, so for February, do you want to do?
We're not meeting January.
I don't think the people are going to be here. Doesn't seem like it because I mean, it's 2 days after New Year's. It's pretty close. So.
So artificial intelligence with AWS in February?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Cool.
Very
All right.
cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great.
Thank you.
Yay.